Now, once upon a time in professional wrestling, it used to matter what the fans thought.
For example, all you parents out there with kids, when your kids misbehave, you give the New Day a call. The New Day comes over to your house, and we will fight your children.
Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of wrestling sucks, but when it's good, it's fucking great. Wrestling is melodrama. Wrestling is mythology. Wrestling is action. Wrestling is comic books. The only thing wrestling isn't is wrestling.
Who wants to take back professional wrestling?
Welcome to Around the Ring, episode 95. We are 5 away from 100. I am your host, Floyd, your Floyd and Savior Johnson, and with us, as always, is the originator and the creator of Around the Ring, Dave Silky Brown. How are you doing today, Dave?
I am well. I am doing all right. I actually watched wrestling this week. You should be proud of me.
I am very proud of you. When you said before we started recording, he told me as soon as I get done with the ROH main event, we can start. And I was like, I actually had a moment where my heart bubbled in joy because I was like, cool, let's talk about some wrestling.
Yes. Yeah, and we are going to get to that Ring of Honor pay-per-view here in just a little bit. But as kind of always, Floyd likes to start us at the beginning of the week. So, yeah. But before we do that, what'd you watch on TV this week?
All right, I made it through. I finished up with Dear White People, the show on Netflix. If you're not too racially sensitive, it can be funny. I found it very funny. But if you are racially sensitive, I would say it's a hard pass because it is very in your face, unapologetically black. So, but it makes fun of black people. It makes fun of white people. It makes fun of all races equally. So don't watch it feeling like it would be like, feel sorry for me. And then I got a lot of season finales in this week, which was cool. There are a lot of current shows, so I don't really want to spoil anything. What did you get to watch?
So I got caught up on Flash and Supergirl. I have not watched Arrow yet. And what else did I watch? I actually watched most of, if not all of Monday Night Raw. I kind of wish I hadn't. And but we'll get to that later. Crap, I'm actually drawing a blank. I think I watched something else. I've been rewatching at work Luke Cage. That's when I'm at lunch. And Gotham, the latest episodes of Gotham and Lucifer. Lucifer is just fantastic. I love that show. It is so much fun.
And the guy that plays Lucifer is on another level. He's really taken on that role, and he has really became that. A great thing about it is, and it's going to be a complaint I have about wrestlers, I know nothing about that man. I hadn't seen him in anything before. So to me, in my mind, he is Lucifer.
Exactly.
And it does help. It does help. You do have, it's a weird thing in Hollywood. You do have some actors that are very, very private people. And I don't know why. It helps me when taking their role that they become that role because I don't know a lot about them outside of what they do.
Yeah, he is. I don't know what he did before, but he owns that role. And on Twitter, that's about all he talks about is the show. And he is so good. And it's just ridiculously good. His charisma, his presence, he is that part so perfectly. And I know some comic book folks were disappointed because in the comic that this is based on, which is a Vertigo title, it was an offshoot of the Sandman series. He was blonde, and there were people that were like, I can't believe he's not blonde, and blah, blah, blah.
I don't understand that. I don't understand that the idea. I mean, I guess I'm not a comic book person, but the comic book person, they want every detail that's in the comic to then be on the TV show. And it's like, no, the comic is its medium. And now they're telling it based on the TV medium.
Right.
So there's some things that you're going to have in the comic that you're not going to be able to pick up on TV. And to me, I'd rather have the best person playing the character that is going to portray the character the best way than the best blonde guy.
Exactly. And to me, it is... actually, I heard John Campea, who is the host of Collider Movie Talk, back when it was on AMC, it was AMC Movie Talk on... when it was on the AMC channel on YouTube, he made a comment, and it was actually in the discussion about the Fantastic Four film that came out last year, the year before, which is just a hot mess. But there was a lot of controversy over the casting of the Johnny Thunders character because, whatever his name is. What is his name? Johnny Storm. Yes, thank you. Because they cast a black guy, and John Campea's whole thing was, look, unless the ethnicity, the look, hair color, whatever, is integral to the character, just get the best actor for the part.
I wouldn't want a white guy playing Black Panther.
Exactly. I mean,
like that character. My whole thing was this: pretty much Sony decided they wanted Michael B. Jordan, to play a superhero.
And it was Fox,
or Fox, or whoever. That's whoever owns Fantastic Four decided they wanted him to play a superhero. So they kind of wedged him into Johnny Storm. If there was an audition and there was like hundreds of people and he came off as the best Johnny Storm, yes, I would say it, but to me, they did it because they wanted him in a movie. He's a very talented actor. I loved him in Creed, but I don't think he came across with the volatile nature of Johnny Storm. Like I said, the whole movie was crap, but I just really thought he was miscast, personally.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Yeah, he is a tremendous actor. And if you have not seen Creed, if you were at all a fan of any of the Rocky franchise, especially those first couple of films, Creed is just incredible. And he is so good in that movie. He's just a hell of a talented actor. And so I can understand why you would want to build a franchise around him. That makes sense. But yeah, he didn't fit the character of Johnny Storm, so it just didn't work. A lot of things didn't work about that movie, and I think had the director, Josh Trank, been allowed to make the film he really wanted to make, it would have been a whole other story. I would love someone to do a documentary at some point of telling what happened to that film, what went wrong, because from everything I've been able to gather from the internet and everything, is it was originally going to be something very different, and the studio got involved, and because they were nervous and whatnot, and just didn't let the dude make the film he wanted to make. And that's a shame, because he's done a few other things that have been good. So
good movies that have superheroes in them, that is my preference. Like like you hear about Batman, they made a good movie and it just happened to be about a superhero, and that's always been my preference. So I would have I'd rather have 4 no ones and they make a great movie, and then hey, it's like, oh, those are about my favorite superheroes, than to have 4 people that you do know and you mess with the movie so much that it doesn't get out what you wanted it to get out of the movie. I saw Guardians of the Galaxy again, Volume 2, and it's a very watchable movie, and it's so fun. I think I hadn't seen it last week. I think I saw it Sunday afternoon after we recorded.
Yeah, you did.
Since the last time we talked, I've seen the movie twice, and I can honestly say it's a great movie, very fun to watch. And James Gunn, and James Gunn, the writer and director, pretty much got carte blanche to do the movie. He did the movie the way he wanted to do it, and he's probably made it's slowly becoming the best Marvel franchise. Just because it's a lot of action, it's everything you want out of a comic book movie, but it's funny and it tells relationship stories. So it's a good movie that happens to have comic book heroes in it.
Yeah, and I have not seen it yet. I was planning on seeing it on Monday, and then I looked at my bank account, realized, oh damn, I don't have any money. So I'm going to have to go probably tomorrow. I think I'm going to go tomorrow morning.
My work took me for free, so yesterday's. One time I paid, one time I saw it for free. I very much enjoyed it. I say go see it. There was other movies this week that came out that I really wanted to see. I'm drawing a blank on what it was now, but I know Baywatch comes out next week. What came out this week? Do you remember?
That Amy Schumer had a film that came out.
Yes, I want to see that with a good old Goldie Hawn, if that's not a blast from the past.
That should be a good... I mean, from what I hear, it's funny, and Amy Schumer's pretty awesome, so I like her.
And King Arthur came out this week.
And flopped like a son of a buck. Man,
Well, it has been horribly reviewed, so that probably did not help it.
Yeah, which is sad, because, I mean, just the look of it, it looks great. And the dude, Charlie Hunnam, I think is his name, that they cast as King Arthur, he looks like $1 million. I mean, some studio somewhere is just desperate to turn him into a massive, massive star. And for whatever reason, it's not working. He was supposed to be in the freaking S&M.
Yeah, 50 Shades of Grey.
Yes, that.
He just said, and it's funny because he's one of those people that is extremely private also. He didn't want to be in 50 Shades of Grey because he didn't want to be... Basically, he was already getting harassed just from getting cast, and he said he didn't want to be that famous.
Yeah.
So, and then last but not least, and this is wrestling related, John Cena had a movie come out this week called The Wall, where he plays a soldier.
Wait, John Cena played a soldier? Shocking.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but he has Aaron Taylor Johnson in it. Aaron Taylor Johnson is a really good actor.
Is this a WWE film?
I don't know. I honestly know nothing about it. I actually saw the end of a preview yesterday. Otherwise, I wouldn't have even known it was a movie.
You know, one thing I will give John Cena credit for, in both Trainwreck and Sisters, he was hysterical. And I don't know how much of that was because it's John Cena and playing these other parts, and just especially in Trainwreck, the movie, the scene in the movie theater, where he's just going off on the other dude, and he just screams, "I will enter you," and and the guy's like, "What?" It's some of the most hysterical stuff.
From what I understand, John Cena is a very funny guy, but he unfortunately is also a very serious guy. Because, like his sense of humor does the very little sample size I have of Total Divas, it doesn't come across.
Well, that's like he was at some press conference, and they were doing something, and some kid asked him, "What's your favorite food?" And he said, "Well, if Nikki stands up, I can show you," or something like that. And I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, damn, dude! Especially to a kid. Like, wow.
But you got to think about this. Let's just say you are a naughty-minded individual. Let's say you're an individual that, cusses and all that kind of stuff. I could see being John Cena, just rather not say anything.
Yeah. I mean, it just, it was so unusual, I think, because he's normally so professional with everything that he does, at least on camera, other than Total Divas, which admittedly I don't watch, but I'm sure that's hammed up for the camera too. Something so off the cuff and so, naughty. It's whatever. That the naughtiness of it isn't what, makes me go, damn, dude. It's the fact that it was to a kid. Had that been a 25-year-old, to which at what point a 25-year-old's going, "Hey, John Cena, what's your favorite food?"
Yeah, and some people have that filter for kids. I don't. I really don't. I generally, when I'm around kids, I have to watch myself very carefully. Because I don't have that filter for children, because my dad didn't and my parents didn't have that filter for me.
Oh, wow.
Like at all. At all. We heard adult conversations like from youth. So there was no filter. So I didn't like, what can kids hear, what can't they hear? I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely heard lots of cuss words growing up. I think by the age of 4 or 5, I was very familiar with terms like bitch, motherfucker, and goddamn it.
I was to say, I watched Eddie Murphy Raw with my parents when it came out on VHS. I am not that old.
Yeah, and I my dad especially, huge Richard Pryor fan. And so there was, at some point when I was in elementary school, I saw Richard Pryor live on the Sunset Strip, which is not something any kid in elementary school should ever watch. It was hysterical. Yeah. I laughed. A lot of it I did not understand at all. Not at all. But my God, if you have never seen that, you need to go watch that. It is some of the funniest stand-up you will ever see in your life. Him talking about going to Africa and having the cab driver who smelled so bad. And, oh my God, Richard Pryor, God rest you. We miss you.
Oh, and let me just say, Eddie Murphy Raw came out in 1987. And the thing about Eddie Murphy was him and Bill Cosby had a beef for a very long time, because even Bill Cosby, who wasn't the Sunshine and Rainbows himself, said he was too vulgar. He cussed too much in his stand-up. And it's crazy to think that, I was 6 or 7 when I saw that movie.
And, you know, the ironic thing about all of this now is, yes, Bill Cosby was getting on his high horse telling Eddie Murphy to stop cussing and go have a Coke, all the while raping women, you know.
Yeah.
But that Eddie Murphy did that great bit where he imitates Bill Cosby and Richard Pryor, and he says when Richard Pryor's giving him advice about Bill Cosby, about not cussing too much, and he's like, "Do people laugh when you say what you say? Yes. Do you get paid? Yes. Well, you tell Bill that kid said to have a Coke, a smile, and shut the fuck up."
Yeah.
Oh, so good. So good. But, you know, we should probably talk about some wrestling here on this wrestling podcast.
Yes. But, you know, like I said, there is a little glimpse into the messed up minds of us.
Yes.
But, you know, like I always say, in the 80s, it's funny. It's like we're regressing, because in the 80s, you just did what parents just did what they normally did around kids. Now, 30 years later, people are like, you got the rating systems and people stick to the rating systems. I didn't even know what the rating systems meant until I couldn't go to an R-rated movie when I was 16. So it's kind of funny, because we watched everything my parents watched.
There you go. But this is one thing that we did just mention is going to segue into a couple conversations we're going to have later on, a couple of John Cena tidbits that we're going to get to. So, yeah. We're gonna
you know what? And the whole, you know, what's appropriate for children thing. We do have another conversation we're going to get to. One of our hot topics is about the Attitude Era versus the current product.
Yes. Yes, thank you. Bring it to the table. So, Monday Night Raw.
Monday Night Raw. So, I will tell everyone what I thought of this week of wrestling. It was crap. So, my recaps are going to be fairly quick. We imagine if you watch the show, you probably watch wrestling. There was not a lot of content in each show. So, I'm just, like I said, just going to go over a few points from it. And if you feel like we need to cover something else, you just chime in, Dave, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
All right, so Raw recap. We got a semi-entertaining segment with Miz and Dean being named co-GMs.
I enjoyed that. I really did.
My problem was, I was like, I don't think Miz was actually named co-GM. He just kind of said it. It was just how it came off. It's just like, hey, I'm co-GM too. Because, you know, you ain't talking to Kurt to say anything different. But yeah, that was actually fairly entertaining. And then you got a Miz and Finn Balor match where Finn Balor basically just went over fairly quickly. Braun Strowman, unfortunately, we found out this week that on the European tour, he tore his elbow, and he'll be out 4 to 8 weeks. Apparently, we find out that the original plans was him to face Brock Lesnar at the July pay-per-view, which I would have loved. I imagine Brock Lesnar would have went over, but hey, it doesn't matter now because from what I understand, that match is scrapped and they are going to find another opponent for Brock Lesnar. I think they mentioned 2, but I'd rather not spoil it, personally.
The rumor is, and I don't think spoiling anything, but the rumor, or what the name that people keep talking about is Finn Balor.
Big Show, Brock versus Finn?
Yes.
All right. Finn would have to go heel, in my opinion. I honestly, let me just say this: there's not many things that can destroy my ability to live outside of reality. But Finn Balor, one of the smallest men I've ever seen, as far as beating Brock Lesnar anywhere near semblance of clean, would destroy my ability to live outside of reality.
Well, I think with the story, if they go with Finn, the story they should tell is they shouldn't turn him to heel yet, because he is actually someone, and he does need to go heel eventually, but he is someone right now that they're pushing like crazy that the crowd actually likes. So I think what they could do is tell a story of he holds his own against Brock Lesnar, and it takes Brock forever to beat him. And just like he will not give up, and to the point where it's just final, 3 or 4 F5s, many Germans. Brock maybe even has to bust out a few other moves that he doesn't use very often, and that just no matter what, Finn will not give up. Finn gets in a bit of offense here and there, but eventually it does come down to to Brock winning, because I think Brock's holding on to that thing until Mania next year. It's pretty safe to say. But that would tell a good story, and it would build up Finn, because you can have someone lose and come out as the winner in the end. So it could garner a lot of sympathy for him, and that would I would prefer that. That's the way I would like that to go down.
Like I said, it's just monster of a human being. I mean, Finn Balor is smaller than Shawn Michaels, and that is, I don't know. I've seen small men beat up big men before, don't get me wrong, but it's just his style doesn't really lend itself. Like Daniel Bryan, I mean, he explained it to me, that his momentum and how he played that fast-paced, hard-hitting style, that he was hitting you again before you even remember that you got hit the first time. I can buy that, beating larger opponents, but Finn, whereas at times wrestles a very methodical style, and unless you're packing some strikes behind that, I don't see you beating Brock Lesnar. But hey, I look forward to it. I look forward to the Demon versus the Beast, and if done well, you could reestablish the club. But I'm not going to, like I said, it would just be hard for me to wrap my head around.
I could see that. Fair enough.
Yeah. So then we had Cesaro destroy the whole tag team division. They literally came out first or second in the tag team turmoil and beat everybody. So that was a way to push them as the top contenders for the tag team titles. The big thing is, and I pointed it out, is that we don't have the Revival. So that is, I'm believing, in my opinion, Sheamus and Cesaro are getting what would have been the Revival's push right now.
Probably. In a way, though, it's the Revival not being here, not getting this monster push immediately, will give their career some it'll lengthen their career, because people won't get sick of them quickly, which I don't think is going to happen either way. But sometimes someone shows up and they get pushed so fast, so hard. It's like, well, what else are they going to do? It's like, these dudes are not old. It's one thing when you get AJ Styles in there who's, pushing 40. It's like, okay, we rocket ship this guy to the top because A, he is honestly the best wrestler in the world, and B, we're only going to get, 3 to 5 years out of this cat, most likely. The Revival, you've probably got a decade out of them unless they get seriously hurt. So there's no hurry to push them too far too fast. That's something I think that they're doing so far a pretty good job with Nakamura, is not immediately putting him in any title picture. And I know I'm jumping, this is a SmackDown topic, but the apparently the rumbling around the campfire is he is possibly heading toward the U.S. title. So that would be, and that would be good, because one, he and Kevin Owens will have great matches. But two, it's good to slowly build these people, and plus it shows the importance of these secondary titles, which they're doing a great job of right now, mostly because Brock Lesnar is going away, so that de facto makes the Intercontinental title more important. And then on SmackDown, it's pretty safe to say that the AJ Styles Kevin Owens match will be the main event of Backlash, because that is certainly how it's been marketed. But we'll talk about SmackDown in a minute. What else do you have about Raw?
All right, Joe is not finished with Rollins, and Bray goes over Dean. Raw was, I said a C, but most people have been saying a D or a D plus. It just really wasn't interesting. And unfortunately, for the first time in a very, very long time, it was better than SmackDown. But before we get to SmackDown, we're after Raw, they did an episode of Bring It to the Table. I don't like this show. I've been very open about not liking this show. But I watched it again to give it a fair shot. And actually, this, to me, JBL didn't play the heel that he normally plays. So it wasn't as unwatchable as it usually is. And honestly, I think having Corey Graves on there instead of Paul Heyman actually made it more watchable. It's not very many times where I'm going to say this, but all Paul Heyman would do, Paul Heyman's a very argumentative person, but all he would do is argue the question. He's very much like a lawyer in that way. He would not answer the question. He would argue why the question was pointless. So it made for a very unwatchable show with him in that role of that role that Corey Graves played, because Corey Graves actually answered some questions. But I sent Dave some topics from it, not based on their opinion. We're going to get our opinion on, I believe it's 3 topics from Bring It to the Table.
Yes, so we've got, I'll just go in the order that you sent these to me. So the question, which was better, or do you prefer Attitude Era product versus the current product? I'll let you go first.
Let me just say this. Wrestling-wise, current product. Story-wise, Attitude Era. The Attitude Era was an adult content television show. So, the storylines were more adult-based. They kept you in. And because they were competing against WCW, they did what was best every time. They were telling the most entertaining storyline. They were really trying to get you to tune in every week. So I felt like the stories during Attitude Era were better. Wrestling-wise, I feel like we get more wrestling per show than we did during the Attitude Era. The Attitude Era was very much that crash TV, ADD TV almost. It was a very short segments, but it was a lot of stuff. And the wrestling match was pretty much the culmination of the story. And the wrestling matches back then generally only lasted maybe 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'm actually, the Attitude Era gets glorified, and when I think about that time, I mean, to me, I was a WCW guy. So even though I was watching both Nitro and Raw, I was far more captivated by Nitro until the end when it just got freaking awful. And that's at the point when I just kind of tapped out. And when WCW folded, that's when I completely stopped. So for me, it was... I mean, the whole thing with the Attitude Era, I remember Scott Hall and Kevin Nash came out on Nitro and did this promo. Kevin Nash, I think, was dressed up as Vince McMahon, and they were trying to get the crowd to chant "asshole," and the crowd just was having none of it. And it basically ended with them saying, "We've got your attitude right here," and doing the NWO crotch chop, to which Tony Schiavone responded something along the lines of, "To that we concur," or something very Schiavone-ish. And they went to commercial. And I just remember thinking, okay, so we've been told for so long that Hall and Nash were the bad guys. And I think this was around... I can't remember if this was post-NWO or if this was NWO Wolfpack. I think it was kind of during an NWO breakup period. But hearing Schiavone say, kind of that he's agreeing with these two guys who were at one point trying to destroy the company, quote unquote, I thought was off-putting. And really, once because Attitude Era really truly started with the Montreal Screwjob, and Vince McMahon just going full-blown heel and basically doing the Eric Bischoff character better than Eric Bischoff did, the heel authority figure. And we're still dealing with that to this day, heel authority figures. So it's had a lasting impression. So as far as I'm concerned, I think back to that period. I just really think about the wrestling that WCW offered. They had some good storylines. They had great matches with, your Eddie Guerreros and Chris Benoit and all of those folks, and Jericho.
But I feel like we need to bring you back to the question.
Yeah, yes.
WWE Attitude Era or the WWE current product?
Oh, current product. There's no comparison. The current product, the wrestling is so far leaps and bounds above what it was during the Attitude Era. You look at the in-ring talent that is on the roster currently, and you compare that with the in-ring talent that was in the Attitude Era. And yeah, there was Shawn Michaels. He was excellent. And you had Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho. But then you had a lot of people who were just meh. I mean, Triple H has had some good matches, but has Triple H ever had a 5-star, tremendously excellent match? Probably not. The closest I've ever seen was when he was in the ring against Chris Benoit, and that's because he was in the ring with freaking Chris Benoit. So you have this entire generation of wrestlers who grew up idolizing your Jerichos, your Guerreros, your Benoits, in-ring work, and that's what they've based their career off of. And so, yeah, for me, it's just, the stories now aren't as good in a lot of cases, but I will take the current product. I will take a big current product match, maybe not the weekly programming, but like pay-per-views for sure. I will do any day of the week.
Let me say this. I can say this. I find the new style of wrestling that the WWE enforces as boring at times. It loses me just because you have limited what moves you can do so much. You find that a lot of people do the same moves over and over again, and my friend Noel pointed out that like every finisher is a version of a neck breaker, and it's 100% true, and it's just that irks me because your in-ring style used to be like a fingerprint. That it was like everybody's style is unique, and now they have been, I call it the Playboy effect, where you had to have these certain surgeries and everything had to be, then you had to be spray tanned, and then your pictures had to be photoshopped. So when you looked at Playboy, every chick looked the same. Every woman looked the same because they had the Playboy effect. Well, wrestling, so much of these people's personality from the indie scene has been taken away from them, and their moves have been taken away from them, that it has grown to the point where it's like everyone looks like, okay, you're a square, you're a rectangle. Yeah, you still kind of look like a square kind of thing. And you do have some brilliant people like Cesaro and AJ Styles that can, color inside the box a little bit to bring it out. But for the most part, I feel like you watch the same match over and over again.
Well, yes, to some extent I see that, but if you think about, say take like a Dean Ambrose, The Miz, Cesaro, AJ Styles, Finn Balor, Braun Strowman, Roman Reigns. I mean, other than a few moves here and there, which everyone does, like diving through the ropes onto the floor, those people I just rattled off have very distinctly different styles. And
that's what I'm saying. They might be distinctly different, but most of them are boring. Like Dean Ambrose is a boring worker.
Yeah,
he's boring.
Dean is boring unless he is really motivated. Miz can be very boring unless he's really doing his personality stuff. I would not say that Cesaro is a boring wrestler.
Well, I said Cesaro and AJ Styles can paint kind of outside the lines and add enough to their moves that are different. But a lot of the times you get a lot of the same moves and stuff.
Yeah, and that is true, and homogenized, I think, is a good way to put it. WWE homogenizes a lot of what they do. They WWE it, and that is a shame because they do have better talent, in-ring talent, than they've ever had in the existence of this company. It's like, imagine having a roster filled with Bret Hart's and Shawn Michaels and Chris Jericho's in his prime and Eddie Guerrero's, and that's what you have right now. Yeah. And they need to let these guys and gals, they need to let them cut loose.
Yeah, it's like, you can tell it's like, hey, these are a bunch of great writers, and hey, but you can tell whatever story you want, but it has to fit into this box. And it just feels like with their bodies, that's how they tell their stories. It feels like I said, it feels like we see a lot of the same story. I'm not saying that didn't happen in the Attitude Era, because everything was a short story in the Attitude Era. It was just, everything was a short story. There were no epics. There were no novels. It was like, hey, you got 15 minutes. And then, unless you were Stone Cold or The Rock, you had to stick into that. So, like I said, I think I looked forward to Raw every Monday during the Attitude Era. I don't look forward to Raw every Monday doing this current era.
And that I totally see, and that is completely on the fault of WWE for just having not as good writing and not as good storytelling, and being afraid to let their talent just go out and perform. I completely agree with you there. But as far as what in matches compels me to keep watching, I prefer the current product. Plus, generally speaking, I prefer the current wrestlers to a lot of the classic wrestlers. I mean, that all having been said, if you look at my top 5 favorite wrestlers of all time, they're all, from 80s and 90s, but that's an all-time thing. Give it time, and, AJ Styles will be, number 2 or 3 kind of thing. Here's what we would like to know. What do you guys think? You can send us a tweet at Around the Ring OK. You can hit us up on Facebook, facebook.com/Around the Ring OK. Or you can even send us an email, aroundtheringok@gmail.com. I really need to start checking that thing more often. And I need to get you the password. I will do that. Anywho, we'd like to know what you think. Which do you guys prefer, current era or the Attitude Era? So let us know your thoughts. There were a couple other topics that came up, and here's the second one. JBL, being the just genius that he is, essentially said, and you can since you actually watch it, you can kind of give us the wording, but that AJ Styles had to confirm that he was the best wrestler in the world. He couldn't truly prove that he was the best in the world until he came to WWE.
And did it on the biggest stage. He was like, AJ Styles might have been the best wrestler in the world for years, but until he came to the WWE and did it on the biggest stage, there was no way to prove that. And I said, I felt personally. Actually, let me see. What do you think about that statement? Let me ask you.
I think that is a part of it is big time JBL sucking WWE cock, which is something he loves to do. He loves to talk about the fact that WWE is the biggest and the best. And that's just, I'm sure he believes a lot of it because they write him fat ass checks. So I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. And that he and Vince are tight.
He lives in Bermuda.
Yeah.
Based on that WWE checks.
Yes, exactly. But as far as proving that you're the best wrestler in the world, you have to come to WWE to do that? No, I don't think that's true at all.
It is. Yeah, go for it.
I think right now you have people wrestling in companies all over the world that are maybe not the biggest stars, but are in the ring the best performers, and they don't necessarily have to be in WWE. I think whether or not AJ Styles was wrestling for TNA 5 years ago, whether it was 3 years ago and he was conquering New Japan Pro Wrestling, or whether it's now and in WWE, he's gotten better over time, and he, especially in Japan, learned about working with bigger crowds. But the fact of the matter is, talent-wise, he has always been the best in the world. And if not the best, he is in top 3 to 5 wrestlers in the world today, and it's been that way for a long, long time. He is as silly as it sounds, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Not for pretty much any Hall of Fame he is eligible to get in my opinion. He is in-ring unbelievable. His mic skills have gotten great. The older he gets, the better he gets on the mic. He's become more comfortable in his persona. And I do think some of that was getting out of TNA and working in other environments. His run in New Japan, I think more than anything, what solidified him as being the best in the world was his run in New Japan. And coming to WWE was just the accent. It was just the icing on top of that cake of he proved. Doing those Wrestle Kingdom shows, that match with Nakamura, being a 2-time IWGP champion. But there are people right now that are wrestling in Ring of Honor, that are wrestling in PWG, that are wrestling in front of 40 people in VFW halls, that are going to be some of the best wrestlers in the world. And you don't have to come to WWE to be the biggest star in the world. Do you have to be in WWE? Pretty much. The only other company that you can be the biggest star in the world really is New Japan. You can be a huge star through, like, the Hardys became even bigger stars. Matt Hardy specifically became a big star thanks to TNA, much bigger than he was previously. But yeah, so I just think if you're talking about star power, household name type thing, then yes, absolutely. If you're talking about being a household name, that comes with being in WWE. If you're just talking about what you can do in the ring and the talent as a performer, absolutely not. What do you think?
All right. If you consider WWE the major leagues, if you consider it the big leagues of wrestling, then that statement is pretty much it goes. It definitely, you definitely agree with that statement. My idea is this: AJ Styles has been the best wrestler in the world for at least 10 years, without a doubt, the best wrestler in the world. And I mean, that's when Shawn was still working. That's when everybody's still working. He has surpassed that. And to me, to be the best wrestler in the world, you have to be able to work all styles, tell a great story, and be able to work with people of different sizes and bring them in. AJ Styles does that very well. But he did that well before he came to the WWE. There is going to be, I'm going to say this, probably since Shawn Michaels, there hasn't been a time where I thought the best wrestler in the world was in the WWE. Until now, until they signed AJ. Because, again, and when you're in the WWE, you have to work inside this box. You have to pretty much become a very vanilla wrestler to a point. And to me, to be the best wrestler in the world, you're gonna, it's what you do outside that box. Like, I've told people, as much as I love Apollo Crews, I love when he was the UI Nation on the Indies. Then he got to WWE, and they have turned down his personality, turned down his in-ring style, took some of the moves away from him, and it's like, okay, you're this very vanilla black guy. You're this basic, generic, creative character on WWE 18 guy.
Yeah, you're Rocky Maivia.
Yes, you are this shell of what a wrestler should be. It's like, so, and then they're trying to mold him until they want. He's just this lump of clay. So I will say this. JBL's comments as a WWE cheerleader makes sense. But as a wrestler that worked on the indie scenes and all that stuff, they have toned the WWE product so much down that I couldn't say with good conscience that the best wrestlers in the world work for the WWE. So I in no way thought AJ Styles came to WWE to prove something. Maybe prove something to himself. Or maybe he just came to show you, you know what, this is what you were missing. And if that's the case, that's great. I don't know his motivation. I just thought it was just a dumbass statement by JBL. Because if you know wrestling and if you don't, your head's not stuck up to WWE's ass, you know that AJ Styles was the best wrestler in the world.
About the only thing I think AJ had to prove was the fact that he is a huge freaking star, and he just needed the bigger platform. In a way, it's like it's almost like with Joss Whedon. Joss Whedon, after the success of the Avengers, he essentially said, look, I've been telling you all for years, you give me the platform and the money to put something together, and I will give you something huge. I will make a hit. And it was the Avengers that finally, in the mainstream, people went, oh, holy crap, this guy is incredible. And AJ Styles is a lot of the same way, because I remember hearing people kind of besmirch him because, for years he'd been in TNA, and he was like, well, no one's going to TNA shows, he's not a draw, blah, blah, blah. And my reaction to that was, no, he just isn't in the right platform. People aren't going to TNA shows because people don't give a fuck about TNA. It has nothing to do with AJ Styles. And here he is, he shows up in New Japan, blows up, ticket sales go up with him being there. He shows up in WWE, first night, Royal Rumble, the place goes berserk. The building literally sells out of AJ Styles t-shirts. Everything they had was gone. The man is a super duper star, and not superstar in the way that, oh, we're too afraid to actually call our folks wrestlers, so we're going to call them superstars. No, he is actually a superstar. And it's, I would say right now, I think WWE on their roster has two of the best wrestlers in the world. One of them is obviously AJ Styles being the best in the world, and the other is Cesaro. I think Cesaro is just an almost unmatched talent. And they also have a lot of people who are fan-freaking-tastic, Kevin Owens being one of them. But yeah, this idea that you have to come to WWE to prove you're the best is silly, because it's the whole correlation from minor leagues to major leagues doesn't really work in a worked industry. So it's not, I mean, I know it's the closest comparison that there is to make. But even if you're going to say that, New Japan is as big of a major league as WWE. They are the second largest organization in the world, and as we're going to talk about later on, they're about to get bigger. So yeah, that's we had one more topic from this Bring It to the Table, and I thought this was a really interesting question, and you'll have to. How did this idea that John Cena is the Babe Ruth of WWE? How did that even come up on the show?
On his birthday, Vince McMahon tweeted that out. He said, "Happy birthday to the Babe Ruth of the WWE, John Cena." And they was like, "Do you think John Cena is the Babe Ruth of the WWE?" And I was like, let's talk about that. So I guess I'll give my opinion first if we're doing it like that.
Yeah.
To be the Babe Ruth of anything, to me, you have to be the first great elite of that sport, right? So if you're going to go a Babe Ruth of WWE, it would have been Bruno Sammartino.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, no, maybe he's like Jose Canseco?
I would say you would have to go more elite, like a more elite than that. He would be like
Mark McGuire?
McGuire, who broke the home run record.
Yeah, that's fair.
You would have to put on that level. He is one of the new stars. So he is, 40 years old. You know what? Perfect analysis. He is the Derek Jeter of the WWE. Derek Jeter tonight is getting his jersey retired by the Yankees. That's neither here nor there. But I feel like he's considered the great one of this generation. He's considered the elite, of this generation. So he would be our Derek Jeter.
And I think that is a more accurate comparison, because you're right. Babe Ruth was an originator. He was the first real, mega talent.
The baseball player, yeah.
Right. And, Mickey Mantle was shortly after him, and then you had a slew of other just tremendous players coming after. And yes, I actually do know a little something about baseball, even though I'm not a sports fan. But to say that John Cena is he the Babe Ruth of the modern era? Maybe. But to just say he is the Babe Ruth of WWE, okay, if you're going to make the argument that WWE started when they had to change their name from WWF, maybe. But that is really stretching it, and when you say WWE, you really are talking about the entire legacy of the company, which they love to claim. They love to claim that legacy, and they should, because it's the same freaking company. So yeah, no, it's Bruno Sammartino.
Yeah, so like I said, it was one of those things. They are very appreciative of what John Cena did, and as far as longevity, he's done it longer than anyone else. It didn't make any sense to me.
I concur.
It was just like, I understand this, McMahon. You've never had a more obedient superstar. This dude will do whatever you tell him to do. So you're going to give him all the accolades that is necessary. Man, if you told him to have that, you know what? Total Divas would get 10 million views if you just impregnated Nikki Bella. I think she'd be pregnant in 2 months.
Probably. He did ask her to marry him.
Yes, on TV, after saying he was never going to get married again. So, that being said, John Cena, like I said, he's gonna be forced down our throat until he dies, because he was as obedient as he was.
Yep, agreed.
He said right now that the only reason he's not working full time is because the WWE doesn't want him to. They're trying to focus on building new stars.
Which they need to do. Which they need to do.
But Macho Man really didn't accept it. Hogan definitely didn't accept it. Stone Cold kind of did, but he was kind of forced to accept it by his neck being broke. So it's just like there has been a long history of Vince having to force a person out. John Cena's like, you know what? I'm going to do whatever's best for the brand. And to that, I see why he's very rich. And he's going to get a lot of accolades thrown his way. But to me, to call him the Babe Ruth of WWE is to forget Hulk Hogan, who is to forget Stone Cold. Hulk Hogan, to me, the argument would be Hulk Hogan or Bruno Sammartino. I would honestly say Hulk Hogan more now, but just because that was the WWF that was owned by Vince, as opposed to Prince. Bruno Sammartino was the WWF, which was owned by Vince Sr. So
right,
I don't know which one. I truly gonna say that I don't know which one is the elite in this case, but to me there's no way John Cena would be considered the Babe Ruth of it.
Agreed. Speaking of John Cena, it's a nice little segue. WWE put together a list of his greatest rivalries, which you can find on WWE.com, and I figured we'd go through these and just kind of quickly give our thoughts. So I'm just going to run through the list. Number 10, AJ Styles. 9, Kurt Angle. 8, Triple H. 7, the WWE Universe. God, that gives me douche chills. 6, CM Punk. Number 5, The Rock. 4, Batista. 3, Brock Lesnar. 2, The Edge, not the one from U2. And number 1, Randy Orton.
So, I disagree. I mean, talk about as far as the ones that meant the most to me, that told the best story for the WWE. 1 would have been Punk. 2 would have been Batista, because it told the story of someone he couldn't beat. And then 3 would probably be Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, I would. So I would put on, and granted, to be fair, a lot of John Cena's career I was not actively watching. But from what I've seen going back, I would say in his biggest rivals would have been CM Punk, who I think was his best rival. Edge, I think they did have a very important rivalry. AJ Styles, I know it's a new one, but AJ Styles pushed John Cena more than anyone probably since Punk has. And I'd even throw Daniel Bryan in there. Their rivalry leading up to SummerSlam, where Bryan won the title and then was screwed over by Randy Orton, I think is a big one. And of course, Brock Lesnar. You've got to throw that in there. I didn't see the stuff with Batista, but my understanding is it was good. The idea that Randy Orton is his greatest rival is fucking laughable. Those two guys, even though they have been in 80 million matches, are so boring to watch. The only thing more boring than a Randy Orton-John Cena match is probably a John Cena-Miz match. And I love The Miz. I really do. But you get him...
Versus anybody?
Who versus anybody?
Dean Ambrose.
Well, yeah... He's had good matches. I've seen him have good matches. He just doesn't give a fuck right now. And I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I was at the TLC when he had the great match with AJ Styles. Just because I say he's boring in general, he does a lot of this. He is very repetitive with his moves in the ring. That's what makes him boring.
True. But yeah, that I just thought this would be, and especially since I knew we were talking about John Cena anyway. I'm very happy that they included CM Punk on this list. I think you can't exclude CM Punk from a list of John Cena rivals.
Well, right above the WWE Universe to give kind of a middle finger to CM Punk. But my favorite CM Punk and John Cena thing is like he was doing that "Let's go Cena sucks." He said, "I thought they were saying CM Punk," and from then on in that rivalry, it was "Let's go Cena CM Punk."
Nice.
Yeah, so it was just one of those memorable moments. I thought his matches, Cena and Punk's matches, had a big fight feel to it every time. That's how I mean, honestly, that's how I felt about the Batista. They kind of kept them away from each other. They only wrestled a few times, him and Batista. They didn't have this really long rivalry. And to me, that's what made the rivalry more significant. Same thing with Brock Lesnar and now AJ Styles. They did a great job of, okay, he lost to AJ Styles, not just having that match 7 times in a row a la Sasha and Charlotte. It's just, you keep them away from it, and they only wrestle on the big stage, and it makes a big difference as far as the people in there. Like I said, it's just him, his feud with the WWE Universe. It's one of those things, it's cool to say Cena sucks. Most people, if you say, give me 3 reasons Cena suck, most people can't do it.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, because in reality, he's fun to hate. What sucks about John Cena is, one, that he is an obedient little bitch to Vince McMahon, and 2, that he's been rammed down our throats. That's it. Because you put him in there with an AJ Styles, a CM Punk, a Cesaro, and you're going to get freaking great matches. Because one thing he will do, when he gets in there with someone who he knows is technically better than him, he will go out of his way to show, hey, I can hang with these people. And you could see that, especially in those AJ Styles matches. He is busting out new moves. He actually does a code red that looks good. And you can tell he's like, okay, motherfuckers, I know I'm not as good as this guy, but I'm going to show you that I can hang with him. And that to me is what is really good about John Cena. Yeah, you put him in there with someone who's not very good or is just mediocre, and it's going to stink. And just him and Randy Orton, for fuck's sake, we don't ever need to see that again, ever. I mean, never, unless it's we're both retiring. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
So there were a couple other shows on WWE television that we should probably talk about. What do you think about SmackDown?
All right, SmackDown actually was worse than Raw. Nothing in particular about the show was interesting. We got another Shinsuke Dolph meeting. We are completely opposite on Shinsuke Nakamura. This is annoying to me. This is absolutely annoying. He should wrestle just like anybody else. This whole he's not going to debut to May 21st thing, so dumb. To me, it's not building up anything, because you can go on the WWE Network, type in Shinsuke Nakamura, and watch him wrestle anytime you want to. So it's not this big reveal that everybody thinks it is. We got Roman beat Harper in a match nobody cared about. I just had to put that in there to just the extent of how unfulfilling this show was. Yeah. It was like, why are these two people wrestling?
That was so. It is so painful and so irritating seeing how they've dropped the ball and just pushed Luke Harper back to the back burner after that looked like they were actually going to do something with him. And I should have known better. You know, that's fool me once, shame on you type thing. The thing I will say real quick on the Shinsuke thing. They backed themselves into a corner. If they didn't want his in-ring debut until this pay-per-view, that's one thing. Don't bring him fucking on TV every week. Let's do some vignettes. You know, let's do just like what they've done with Roderick Strong and NXT. Do a Who is Shinsuke Nakamura parts 1 and 2, or do maybe even a 3-part thing.
But they screwed over their relationship with New Japan so much they don't have any tape they can use.
Or they can just talk about his time, and they can talk about his time in New Japan, show pictures that other people took, mention the fact that he beat fucking Brock Lesnar, and then there's ways around that. Because I mean, did they show any footage of Roderick Strong from Ring of Honor in their little stuff about him? No, but they sure talked about it.
They did,
and they showed pictures. So there are ways around that. It's just I don't know if they're being lazy. I don't know if they just want him to come out because the crowd goes nuts because his entrance is incredible. But yeah, it needs to. It's been handled poorly overall. But yeah, that whole thing with Luke Harper pissed me off. Did you want to talk about the opening part, because this is what I've got to say about my biggest takeaway from what I saw on Raw and SmackDown this week is AJ Styles is the most over person in WWE, hands down. His reaction was ridiculous when he came out.
Yeah, it was a great reaction. Honestly, like I said, it honestly didn't stick into my mind because it introduced into a 6-man tag match. And like I said, if anyone knows the bane of my existence, it is the random 6-man tag match.
Yeah, those are stupid.
Yeah, we did get another Fashion Police from Breezango, which was awesome. And they were doing it They were doing it in the back stage area, and then they run into Ascension, so they got put over the Ascension again. And then the Usos probably had the funniest moment of the WWE week by come out and do the most awkward promo ever.
I must not have seen that part.
12 days, you're going to touch each other's back. You better watch each other's back. You better lick each other's back. He just went on. And it was like 12 days. And then the end of the crowd was in the 12 days. But the things he was saying were so weird and adult.
That's awesome.
So erotic that it was very, very awkward.
Well, I did see the Fashion Police thing, and when they kept hearing the screaming, and they found the Ascension, and they're just standing there like hitting each other in the chest and screaming, and the looks on Breezango's faces were so hysterical. But it's like, oh my God, can you just like fire the Ascension at this point, or can you make them look like jabrones any worse? It was so hilarious. But yeah, I love this. I know that they're going to lose at the pay-per-view, but Breezango is great and they're getting over. And I hope it's a match where they just barely lose and the Usos have to do something nefarious to win. So that way it makes Breezango look credible in the ring. Because as we've mentioned many times on the show, those guys can go, especially Tyler Breeze. So yeah.
They can definitely go. Connor and Victor are very popular in the backstage. People hate the fact that, they're not over. But they weren't, and to me it was like, it's not that they're not over. They were buried so unceremoniously. And it was so obvious that they were buried. It wasn't like a situation where they were kind of buried. I mean, they were buried. They lost every time for a long time.
It was bad. They were just doomed to fail. I mean, yeah.
All right.
Anyway, anything else from the SmackDown?
Mahal got the pin over over Orton in that luxurious 6-man tag. I just think the WWE has to do something about this. They have a UK crowd, which is always raucous. The UK crowd is always into it. We have members of the club in the UK crowd, and they're begging for an amazing show. Why not give them an amazing show? Why not do the whole... Well, SmackDown couldn't do it. But Raw, why didn't they just make this kind of a pay-per-view type show? Like SmackDown does, where they just have this big match during it or something, and give the UK crowd something important. They just kind of gave them 2 meh episodes of Raw and SmackDown, and I was disappointed for them.
Yeah, agreed. It was,
Yeah,
pretty much.
All right, 205 Live, because it's only 3 matches, I can run through it real quick. Gentleman Jack toast Aries, for being a pal and saving them on Monday night. Mustafa Ali beats Tony Nese to the disappointment of Drew Gulak. Kendrick and Tozawa finally have a match. Tozawa wins. Kendrick destroys Tozawa after. And because he says the final lesson was don't mess with Brian Kendrick. The best match of the week, as far as WWE concerned, happened on NXT where was Roderick Strong versus a Dale Tommy. I don't know if you got to watch that match.
I did. I watched NXT this week.
Yeah, so that was definitely a 4-star match.
Oh yeah, that was great. And the sad thing, well, not even the sad thing, but you could tell they weren't. I mean, they were holding back. That wasn't everything that those guys could do, but yeah, it was awesome. I loved it. A couple other takeaways I had from NXT. Aleister Black is a complete badass, and
Super.
Do what?
Super over.
Oh yeah, and apparently there's talk that, according to the rumor mill, that he might not be in NXT for very long. That the folks in WWE are super high on him. He apparently had a match on Main Event this week, and he beat Kurt Hawkins.
The European tour because they went to Sweden for the first time in the Netherlands area, and that's where he's from. So he did the Raw tour this week, which is very quick for a person that was just brought in and just debuted on NXT. Yeah, he doesn't really need to be in NXT. He's not developing anything.
No.
I mean, if you go and watch any of the episodes of Progress, you still have my account information if you would like it. If you would like to use it, I don't use it as much now, so that there's not as many concurrent sign-ins. You can watch, and he's very much played the same character. Only thing he is he has way better production value now.
Yeah, he's their
better production.
Yeah, there are two main reasons why people go to NXT right now. Well, three, really. One is because you are truly in developmental and you are learning your craft. Those would be, say, your Aaliyahs, your Tino Sabatellis. Then you've got your indie stars who are coming in to transition to WWE and maybe need a tiny bit of tweaking, and need to learn the WWE style, get prepared to move on to Raw and SmackDown. And I would put Aleister Black in there. And then you've got your people who you're brought in completely as a draw for NXT. Those are your Drew Galloways, i.e. Drew McIntyre's, Bobby Roode,
Eric Young.
So those folks. So it is, I mean, Aleister Black can also be a draw for NXT, but I think they're going to move him pretty quickly to Raw or SmackDown. And you could say that I would also put in that same middle category, I would put La Sombra, what's his freaking name? Cien Almas. He's probably in that category. So yeah, that's, I mean, do you think that's a pretty fair way to look at NXT about who comes in?
It's an absolutely fair way. Like Andrade Cien Almas, it's kind of like Sami Zayn. He's working on his expressions because he's worked with a mask so long that he's now working without a mask. That's why Sami Zayn was there a lot longer than people thought, because he had to work on showing his expressions the whole match, which he didn't have to do because he worked under a mask so long.
Exactly. Well, this brings us to, by the time we come back for our next episode, NXT TakeOver Chicago will have happened. And as of right now, there are 4 announced matches, so we should go ahead and do our predictions for the big show in the Chicago. So first up is Tyler Bate defending the WWE United Kingdom Championship against Pete Dunne. I suspect Pete Dunne is walking out as champion.
Yeah, he is the most over person in the UK. It's not even close. Tyler Bate is a very good wrestler, but he has 0 personality.
Yeah. Then I'm sorry, go ahead.
So if your point is to elevate the UK title, you put it on Pete Dunne.
Yeah. And I like the fact that they're kind of bringing this into the NXT realm, because I think that's a good idea, is to have those guys wrestle in NXT. Even though I know they've filmed some episodes of for the UK show, they did some filming while in the UK, and I think Pete Dunne even showed up with his Progress belt
He did.
He did, and so I like that. And I hope they actually do some work concurrently with Progress, and I think that's still kind of in the works. But integrating this into NXT, I think, is a really good idea, and it would be an easy way to keep these wrestlers fresh and in people's minds. And I mean, you could almost even have Aleister Black get involved in that, unless they don't want to just hamper him to just the United Kingdom, roster, so to speak. But we'll see. I think this is going to be a good match, and I'm looking forward to it. Then we've got the NXT Tag Team Championship, Authors of Pain defending against Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa in a ladder match. I think this is a really good way of letting DIY get the belts back with pinning Authors of Pain.
Correct.
And I wouldn't be surprised if we see Authors of Pain on SmackDown or Raw sometime soon.
I would be surprised if that happened, but yeah, Ciampa and Gargano are going over.
I agree. And I mean, really, at this point, okay, so at this point, DIY is in that upper echelon of the three tiers of NXT folks. They are the big draw for NXT. They are huge for this brand. And having them as a tag team champions, as fighting tag team champions, is great. What really, I mean, the Authors of Pain, what more do they have to do in NXT, honestly? Not a lot. I mean, they're going to get better as they wrestle more. Mm-hmm. But their big thing is they're huge. They're scary looking. They scream in some fuck-aware Stan language that I don't understand. And they've got Paul Ellering with them. So there's no real need for them to continue to be in NXT. They can just go to SmackDown, which is where they really need to go, I think, and just be badasses there and destroy the Ascension and other people. So that's my thoughts. Did you have anything else on this one?
Yeah, I just feel like they want them to season for a little bit more. But yeah, unless you're going to bring them up and let them dominate, there's no point. Yeah. That's how I believe.
That the one thing I think you keep them around. They have a feud with Heavy Machinery, not for the belts.
Okay. And
then you could send them up, and that could be Heavy Machinery beats Authors of Pain, and then Authors of Pain head up. So by the time the next takeover happens, that's when they and Heavy Machinery have their match. Heavy Machinery wins. Authors of Pain show up on Raw or SmackDown that week. That would work. And that would give them another, 3 months of seasoning? 2-3 months. Mm-hmm. So, because as you said, there's not much else for them to do. We then have a triple threat match for the NXT Women's Championship. Asuka defending against Ruby Riott and Nikki Cross. So apparently that the injury that Ember Moon had is not the injury that they're saying it is, but she really does have an injury that is being worked on. So she is legit hurt from something. But this should be great. One thing I loved on NXT this week was that Nikki Cross interview segment where I just love her. When she just sat in the chair and just kind of bounced there, and she's this deranged child. She has this character down. I'm looking forward to this a lot. And this is a great point. I mean, easily you get the belt off Asuka without having to pin her. So I don't know though. I think any of these women could win. Asuka's probably going to walk away with the belt, but if I had to put an order of who I think is going to win, it would go Asuka, Nikki Cross, Ruby Riott. I don't think Ruby's winning. If it's not Asuka walking away with the belt, I think it's Nikki Cross.
Yeah, I think they're going to build it up for Ember to take it at in Brooklyn. That's how I see it, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But I don't think Asuka's going to lose this one. I think if they were going to take the belt off of Asuka in a controversial way, they would have done it at the Fatal 4-Way.
And I still think they should have done it there. But anyway, And then we have our main event. Bobby Roode defending the NXT Championship against Hideo Itami. Is this finally the time that Itami gets the big win, gets the championship?
I don't think so.
Now, do you think someone debuts, interferes, causes a problem?
No, I think it pays to be rude. I think he wins the match in his normal. Maybe he debuts some type of almost like underling. You know what I'm saying? Because that's kind of what his character is missing, is some underling to abuse. So maybe they do debut somebody like that that helps them get the win over Itami. I don't think they want to have Itami putting the GTS on anyone in Chicago.
I don't know. I bet the crowd would either. I don't know. Part of me thinks that they would love it. I loved his semi-troll sub-tweet for CM Punk. Say, wait, he's going to hit my GTS. I thought it was pretty funny. Now, it's funny, but it seems like almost the most inappropriate thing, because CM Punk is one of his biggest fans. See, that makes me wonder if they're like friends, if it was a joke between him and Punk, type of thing. And I don't think it was meant as a personal attack. I think it was meant as a rib that this is, I created the move. It's Chicago. I know, wink, wink, nudge, nudge type of thing. I would like to see Itami win, but I don't think they're ready for Bobby Roode not to be. I could see, here's what I could see happening. He hits a GTS in the process when he has Roode on his shoulders, ref bump, hits a GTS, goes for the pin, it's 3, ref doesn't move. He finally gets up, checks on the ref's not looking, low blow from Bobby Roode. Bobby Roode hits his DDT, gets the win. That would be an acceptable way for that match to go down.
I was going to say, my whole thought process is Galloway is the one that's going to take the belt away from him.
Yeah,
so,
I think so too.
Or McIntyre, excuse me. His real name's Galloway, but Drew McIntyre is going to take it away at Brooklyn. That is my honest opinion. I think Itami loses. Then there's some kind of number one contender spot, and it's McIntyre versus Itami. McIntyre wins. Put on some good matches that way to lead to McIntyre taking the belt. Because they didn't bring Drew McIntyre, one of the biggest names in the indie circuit, just to not be in the main event fairly quickly.
True. Very, very true. So that is our thoughts on NXT TakeOver Chicago. That happens next Saturday. I'm really looking forward to this. It'll also be interesting to see what else they put on there, because it's at least a 2-hour show. So they've got to put more matches than just 4, unless they give all 4 of them, a half an hour or more. And I don't foresee that happening.
Yes.
But
I will not be live tweeting that show, because it is my darling sister's birthday. So I will be out of town celebrating her birth. So I probably won't watch the show until Sunday or Monday, which is very rare for me.
I will probably watch some of it Saturday night and the rest of it Sunday morning before our next episode. So yeah. But that's that. Now, I think this is probably a good time, because there's something we didn't mention that might happen at TakeOver, but relates to the best show of the week, hand down, the Ring of Honor New Japan Pro Wrestling War of the Worlds pay-per-view that was Friday night. You got a chance to watch it, correct?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. So overall, what were your thoughts?
Great wrestling show. Great pure wrestling show. That's what I got from it. You pretty much got every type of match possible. You got a fatal 4-way, triple threat. You got a 6-man tag. You got a regular tag, a triple threat tag. You got a regular tag match for the championship. Pretty much any match you could imagine, you got.
Yes, and it was. I don't think there was a bad match on the show. I mean, it was great. So we'll just go through the card. The show opened up with a 4-corner survival match, which was basically just a fatal 4-way. Silas Young taking on Bobby Fish versus Kushida versus Dalton Castle. There was no real, other than it's a fatal 4-way, there was no implications of winner gets a title shot at anything. It was just, hey, we're putting these 4 people together for a match. And so actually everyone got huge pops when they came out. Silas Young got a big pop, to which he immediately shit on because he's Silas Young. The crowd was singing along to Bobby Fish's music. Kushida got a great pop because, you know, the Ring of Honor fans love the New Japan guys. And they went absolutely bonkers for Dalton Castle. This match I thought was fantastic. I had so much fun watching this. And Dalton Castle got the win, pinning Bobby Fish. Now, does this mark the end of Bobby Fish in Ring of Honor? We don't know, but I really enjoyed this.
He's 40, so that dude is 40. I had no clue he was that old. The dude's 40, so if you're going to make your WWE run, you know, well, probably a few years past your prime, but hey, whatever. Take your shot.
Yeah, he doesn't. I mean, he looks like he's maybe 30.
No, I completely agree.
Yeah.
But good Lord, the dude's 40.
And I think one telling sign is he came out wearing a Red Dragon shirt. And Kyle O'Reilly was last seen in Evolve. And he was even saying, he said, as he was coming down the ring, he said something about Red Dragon not being done. So I would not be surprised if we saw them in NXT sometime soon. And I could just see them being, at least Bobby Fish, just being an NXT lifer. And that would be great. The NXT crowds would go nuts for Red Dragon in general. And Bobby Fish, he would be a hell of a veteran talent to have on hand in NXT to help get guys better, to help with training, and to put on great matches. So him taking the fall... They didn't give him like a goodbye or anything, so who knows what the status is with him. But this match was super fun.
It was super fun. I really enjoyed it. Dalton Castle's finisher really does it for me. It's very interesting. Just how the spin, it kind of goes with his character. So I definitely enjoyed that match.
Yes, I love his finisher, the Bangarang or whatever it's called, and his entrance was incredible. And even though I know that if he ever went to WWE, they would so water down his character and they would ruin it, but imagining that kind of entrance with WWE production values is kind of cool. And maybe someday he'll be an NXT lifer too, especially if they really do push NXT as this really true third brand that also somewhat functions as a developmental territory. But anyway, next up we had Frankie Kazarian taking on Hangman Page, a match during which I literally gagged, because that spit fest.
Oh yeah, that was disgusting. He put the spit off of his face and then licked it.
Yes. Oh, I truly thought I was going to barf. This also was a really, really good match. The feud's not over. Paige got the win, holding the ropes. But that spitting exchange, my God.
It was kind of funny during that match. I was watching it and talking to my friend Jason at the same time. And you just got this white guy walking around with a noose on his neck. And I was like, you know what? WWE couldn't do that.
No.
You could get destroyed.
Yeah, I don't...
never hanged a black guy with it or anything. And it's just a simple, actual act of a white guy with a noose around his neck. You could not have that on WWE programming.
Damn, see, I never thought of it that way, but you're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Jeez, yeah, definitely. I don't think Hangman Page, I don't think Adam Page is WWE bound. I mean, and that's nothing against him. He is really good, but as you will often say, he's small. I think he's going to have a really good long career in Ring of Honor and in New Japan.
Yeah, I mean, he got in with the Bullet Club, so you either have a steady character being a bad guy, but when they actually want to make you a good guy, that's not a big deal because you have a built-in, face turn, just turning on the Bullet Club.
Right, just like when he turned on the Decade. He was in the Decade before he was in Bullet Club, and the Decade originally was B.J. Whitmer, Jimmy Jacobs, and Roderick Strong. And then Roddy left, and then Jimmy Jacobs got a job writing for WWE, so he left. And so the Decade was essentially B.J. Whitmer and Adam Page. Adam Page was kind of their young boy, so to speak. And then Adam Page just had it with B.J. Whitmer, turned on him, and had a short face run before joining Bullet Club. And people.
Adam Page is only 25.
Yeah, he's got tons of career left. But people, when he turned on B.J. Whitmer, because B.J. Whitmer is probably the most hated man in NXT, in Ring of Honor, possibly history. Ring of Honor fans hate B.J. Whitmer so much. He gets handed a microphone, and the place immediately erupts into "shut the fuck up" chants, which is hilarious. But yeah, Page is really good. I don't foresee him in WWE, and there's nothing wrong with that, as we've said many times. But yeah, I thought this was a pretty good match. Again, damn near barfed. We then had a triple threat tag team match. Evil and Sonata from Los Ingobernables. De Japón, taking on Chris Sabin and Jonathan Gresham from Motor City Machine Guns, which I think has kind of morphed just from Sabin and Alex Shelley into kind of a team, into a little faction, a face faction. And then taking on War Machine, who are the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Champions. This was a good match. War Machine got the win. War Machine.
There was this spot where one of the people from War Machine, I think it was Rowe, did a double over the head belly to belly suplex, and I was like, wow, I'm glad somebody didn't die. It looked so awesome, but I just could see someone landing on their neck, but he did it so well.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was a great spot. There were a few spots during this show that I was like, oh, holy shit, someone just died. Because, Ring of Honor guys, they're nuts. But this was a lot of fun. I mean, I thought this was a really good match. Basically, it's just, I don't think there was much of a reason for it other than to have a really good match with a whole bunch of guys. Sometimes with undercards in Ring of Honor, there's not a lot of story behind matches. It's just, hey, here's some guys, and they want to get into a title picture, so we're going to put them together, and they're going to have a good match.
And I'm okay with that when it comes to the undercard. I'm okay with the undercard not being announced. I'm okay with that. It's just like when you just throw random 6 people together in the main event, I'm going to have a problem with it.
Oh, yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I am totally fine with just random matches like that 4-way match of guys who are vying for title contention, and you just put them in there and they have a great match, and it's a lot of fun. Speaking of great matches, next was Jay White taking on Will Ospreay, and
it was my favorite match of the night.
Oh God, yeah. So there was, Ospreay took a bump at one point onto the guardrails. He did one of those tope suicidas, and Jay White grabbed him and basically did essentially a belly-to-belly into the guardrail, and it looked like it sucked so bad. Because those aren't those fancy padded WWE guardrails. No, this is the just metal guardrails, and he had welts on his back the rest of the match. And then this was the crazy match. At one point, Jay White did some kind of brainbuster type of move where he drove Ospreay's head onto the apron. And that looked like it sucked. But this match was incredible. I do foresee Ospreay at some point in WWE. because he's a good-looking dude. He's charismatic. He is flippy as fuck. And, yeah, that match was just incredible. I loved it.
They definitely need him and Homicide for their cruiserweight division. They just have a way of telling a story in a different way that the big men can't do. My biggest concern with the cruiserweight division in the WWE leading to this is that every match, no one does anything in a cruiserweight division that you don't see Seth Rollins and Finn Balor do. You know what I'm saying? There's not the separation of church and state. So they do Ricochet and Will Ospreay do things that other people just can't do.
Yeah. Oh, can you imagine someday if we got a Ricochet Ospreay match on, Royal Rumble or WrestleMania or something?
Yeah.
Oh.
That spin kick he does is amazing.
Oh, yeah, I love that. Well, then, after the match, they shake hands, and Jay White was like, I was one move away, and it was very sportsmanlike, and then Punishment Martinez comes out and destroys them both. Because, he's 6-something tall, and, do you think WWE's got their eye on this guy?
Not yet. I think the WWE does take their chances to let people season, in the indies a little bit. If they're too raw, even for, NXT, they let them season just a little bit more before coming out. And, if Ring of Honor is any type of intelligent, they have him at least on some kind of guaranteed contract for at least a few years.
Yeah, hopefully. Next up, we have the 6-man tag team title match. Hirooki Goto and Roppongi Vice, who I just love, challenging Bully Ray and the Briscoes. So here's my big takeaway and question about this match. How many chair shots to the head did Mark Briscoe take?
A lot.
And, granted, none of them looked overly stiff or, it wasn't like Attitude Era pre-Benoit killing his family chair shots. But it was still a lot of his head getting hit by metal.
Yeah.
What'd you think of this match?
It was very entertaining. It served its purpose, and the whole Bully Ray showing up in the crowd and then making it a no DQ match gave me some ECW feels.
And, how can you not? It's with the Hammerstein Ballroom. The Dudleys had they lost the ECW Tag Team Championship in that building in their last night in ECW before going off to WWE. They lost to Raven and Tommy Dreamer, of all people, in Raven's re-debut after he coming back to ECW, having been in WCW. I remember watching that on TNN, the Nashville network, before it became Spike TV. That was a good show. I really enjoyed the ECW weekly show back then. But anyway, I agree. This was a lot of fun. Next up, we had another, I think, one of the other highlight matches of the night. Matt Sydal challenging Marty Scurll for the television title. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Matt Sydal show up on Impact recently?
Yes, he did.
So is he just not fully signed to one company or the other?
It seems like it. He's wrestling both. They actually gave him a win over one of their, established X Division stars. So I don't know what they're doing with that. I was just as surprised as anyone to see him on the match.
But this was a really good match. The thing I really take away from this is every time I see Marty Scurll is this guy is just a mega superstar waiting to happen. His only disadvantage is the fact that he's short. But this guy is super over. He has his character down so beautifully. And he is the only person alive that makes that chicken wing look like it freaking hurts. Because I thought Matt Sydal's shoulder was going to pop out at the end of this match.
Yeah. and he does a good job. He locks the hands, and he really puts it in there. It's very much a WWE friendly move. So if they try to sign him, I'd see it make sense. But since the later events happened of that night, I think Marty Scurll is ROH for a significant amount of time.
And I hope, because Ring of Honor has had some issues either making or holding on to potentially new stars, because they lost Leo Rush, Donovan Dijak, they lost him. So Marty Scurll is the kind of guy who you can build your company around Marty Scurll. He is that good, I think, especially star power wise. So yeah, more on him later. We then had the tag team championship match, the Young Bucks defending against Naito and Bushi. Speaking of stars, Naito, freaking star. He's awesome. And I love how Matt and Nick at the beginning of the match, how they threw up their belts like Naito does. I thought that was a great moment. What did you think on this one?
I thought it was an excellent match. Naito is one of those people that he very much demands you watch him. He demands you pay attention. And the whole throwing the belt in the ring gimmick is one of my favorite things. I think it's just something where you're completely disrespecting it, and I love that about it. I hope it's something that Baron Corbin does if he actually wins the belt.
Okay, I could see that. Yeah, and I love when he was doing that thing where he's running the ropes really fast, acting like he was going to do a dive, and then he just does that thing where he slides on the mat and puts his hand, rests his head on his hand. That was great. He is just, man. And if WWD hadn't already recently in the last couple of years signed up a whole bunch of Japanese guys who are, really charismatic and really good, I could see them wanting him. But I don't know if he speaks English. So, but yeah, this match was a lot of fun. The part where Bushi hit Matt Jackson with the mist, a la the Great Muta, and Matt just super kicks everyone was awesome. I freaking loved that.
He's blind super kicking everybody right there.
Oh, that was so good. The only thing I would have loved is so Kevin Kelly name checked the Revival, and there was a sign in the crowd that said Revival Who. I would have loved for them, the Young Bucks, to hit the Shatter Machine at some point. That would, and then I thought about this morning, I was like, what actually would be cool is if there's a team that has signed to WWE and everyone knows that's where they're going, and they're having one final match in Ring of Honor, to have it be against the Young Bucks, and the Young Bucks send them out hitting the Shatter Machine and saying, "Tell the Revival we said hi."
That would be funny.
Oh, that would be so good. So good. So yeah, but the Young Bucks retain. Super fun match. Then we have the most probably important match of the night. Tanahashi facing Adam Cole. And I didn't know this, but Adam Cole apparently facing Tanahashi was one of his dream matches.
Yes.
And this was a lot of fun. I think it was a great match. It was a very safe match. Neither guy did anything really crazy or stupid. But it was a lot of fun.
Tanahashi with a win in this one. Yeah, the more I watch Adam Cole, the more I like him. And he worked well with Tanahashi. They didn't have overwhelming chemistry, but it was pretty good. And, he took the pinfall because, that's what you do when you're leaving.
Yep. And I love the thank you Adam chants. And then the Young Bucks came out looking like they were going to super kick him. And then they hug. And it's a nice moment. The announcers are calling it the curtain call. And they're, they're basically saying, hey, Adam Cole's out, without saying Adam Cole's out. One other thing. During the Young Bucks match, one of the announcers asked Kevin Kelly if they're going to have the super kick counter. I think it was Colt Cabana. And he said, no, they've gone to the other territory, which was hilarious. I just laughed so hard during that, because the super kick counter was something that, what's his name? Who I'm blanking.
McGinnis did, right?
Yes. And so yeah, they always would make jokes when he was leaving about, you're going to some other territory. And, he's now at the Performance Center training people in WWE.
Oh, the Carino.
Carino. Yep. Oh, so good. But yeah, so lights go out. Kenny Omega appears on the screen, and place goes nuts until he says, "I can't be here," and then he gets some booze. It says that basically in every fairy tale there's a hero and a villain, and at that point you know what's going to happen. And unfortunately, I knew that Marty was joining the Bullet Club. I just didn't know how, because I'd been looking at Twitter yesterday while at work before I'd watched the show, and I scrolled through a thing where it had him wearing a Bullet Club shirt. So darn it. But then Marty Scurll shows up beside him, or someone in Marty's outfit, and then the lights are still off for a while. And this is where, bless her heart, Ring of Honor production values just aren't the best in the world. Lights come back up. Marty Scurll standing in the ring, and Adam Cole's like, "What are you doing here, Marty?" Just like, what the hell's going on? And Marty undoes his umbrella, and it's got the Bullet Club emblem on it. And then the Young Bucks super kick Adam Cole, and it's revealed that Marty Scurll has joined the Bullet Club. So my initial thoughts on this, real quick, is one, it was very cool, and I think he will be a very good member of Bullet Club. But then there's a part of me is like, does every heel need to join the Bullet Club? But I liked it. What did you think?
I thought it was awesome. I thought it was amazing. I think he's the perfect person for the Bullet Club, just because it establishes they have those three, like their main three in the American territory. Then of course Kenny Omega runs the Japan territory, so that is awesome. I think it was needed. I think they needed a big name to replace Adam Cole, because Adam Cole leaves, you have to put someone in that spot.
True.
It leaves a big gaping hole, and that's a big name. And not only do you put a name, you put a belt in the Bullet Club without them even having to win a match.
Also true. And the other thing is, Scurll is really an up and coming guy. He is a guy who's still young. His career is young, and so yeah, I from that,
it's cool. He is the cool villain. He's a cool heel.
Yeah, he is, and he's just. I think I gushed enough about him earlier, but this now begs the question. Going back to TakeOver, do you think we will see sitting in a chair at ringside Adam Cole on Saturday?
I believe so. Somebody was like he had another appearance, but a lot of people make their appearances with WWE and then have other appearances to finish out. Drew McIntyre being the most recent one. The Hardys, that too. They let the Hardys finish it out. The WWE loves their moments, and if they can have a moment where they show Adam Cole, the number one free agent in wrestling, who has an ESPN article saying as much, they could have him in the first row of a WWE event, they're going to do it.
Yeah, I agree. Apparently he's got his last PWG appearance on Friday night, and so I would be surprised if he's not at TakeOver, because really the way that they finished this match, especially with Marty Scurll joining Bullet Club, it pretty much tells you that, okay, Adam Cole's not going to New Japan. Because if Adam Cole was going to New Japan, they wouldn't kick him out of Bullet Club. They probably would have had him beat Tanahashi. Hell, he wouldn't have fought Tanahashi. He would have fought someone else. This very much screamed of, I'm going out. I would really like to face this legend, and then I want to eat some super kicks and help put this new kid over. So it just, everything about that whole moment screamed, I'm done, I'm leaving. And it was a perfect way to do it. And yeah, I loved it too, and I think him showing up at TakeOver would be awesome. And I just really hope that he is a guy that they let keep his name. And I think he would probably insist on keeping his name. And because it's a marketable name, he's known, And if you change his name, then it changes so much of the whole Adam Cole Bebe thing. So yeah, we'll see what happens on Saturday. One more match from this, the main event, triple threat, Cody Rhodes and Jay Lethal challenging Christopher Daniels for the Ring of Honor World Title. This was just an awesome match, I thought. Christopher Daniels got the win. I had a feeling that the title wasn't going to change here, because the big moment was the whole Adam Cole Bullet Club thing. And so you didn't need the title to change. I think eventually, if Cody Rhodes ends up making Ring of Honor his home base, which is apparently the rumors that he's going to end up eventually staying with Ring of Honor, and if that's the case, I think he will be the guy to beat Christopher Daniels for the title. But I think they'll do it at maybe Best of the World or at one of the bigger shows. What do you think?
I love the end of the match. I love how they did it with, because the thing is Daniels is the smartest wrestler in the room, and that actually drove that home. Cody Rhodes, I don't know. I really don't. But yeah, I think the fact that ROH and New Japan allows him the freedom to go around the country and wrestle. He doesn't have to just wrestle for them. I think that's why they're going to get him. I don't think he would get that freedom anywhere else.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think he'll be in Impact much longer. So I think he'll probably end up signing a primarily exclusive deal with Ring of Honor, which will allow him to work PWG, New Japan, and a bunch of other stuff. And
it would be cool if he was signing with TNA, because we could take the whole Cody Rhodes thing and be like, okay, you can be Cody Rhodes, and WWE, you promise not to sue us for using Cody Rhodes. We promise not to sue you for the Broken Hardy thing.
Yeah, that would be nice. So this actually segues into two other stories. Speaking of TNA, did you watch Impact this week?
I did.
Okay.
Decent show overall. They did the Veterans of War. It's a new tag team. They had this point where LAX was putting America down and saying that flag doesn't mean nothing to me. It's just toilet paper. Blah blah blah. The cheapest of cheap pops. So VW. So of course they battled, and then I just thought that was like really really cheap. It was like very much early '90s America versus everybody else type thing. It was very annoying. And in the main event, Alberto El Patron beat Magnus to become the new Global Force Wrestling Champion.
So this segues into something Matt Hardy said on Twitter this week, in which basically he said that TNA is funding Global Force Wrestling into existence. In fact, let me pull up. I will read the tweet. All right. If Billy had got TNA, company/talent would have been great. Instead, a naive Nordholm is now funding GFW into existence at TNA's expense. Well, considering the GFW world title was the main event of Impact this week, do you think there's some validity to this?
No, absolutely not. Seriously, it's belts. The GFW roster has joined Impact Wrestling, and they're just defending their belts on the show. It's making Bobby Lashley's belt and the chase for Bobby Lashley making him even more important. It's elevating him to a whole different level. And they're not running. It's not like they're running GFW shows. Now, I can say this. They say Impact is touring again, and it looks like a lot of their tour dates are what GFW already have booked.
Okay, well that makes sense.
I'm fine with. To me, the only way to make money as a company is if you're touring a little. I'm not saying you have to be putting on 40 shows a month like the WWE, but you need to tour a little bit just to get your name out there, because some people see, hey, wrestling's coming to the neighborhood, they buy a cheap ticket, and then they end up falling in love.
Exactly, and that's what they need to do. Now, because my thoughts have always been that eventually what will happen is it will build to a like Global Force Championship versus Impact Championship, and they'll have matches which will unify the titles. And once that is done, new belts will actually be debuted, and with the new Impact logo and the whole thing. And it, as far as like, if Jeff Jarrett is in his mind thinking, okay, I've got this job with Impact, but really what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this to rebuild Global Force Wrestling. He doesn't actually own Impact, so the fact that he's there over creative, it's not really if legitimately Anthem absorbed GFW, like legally absorbed the company. And not just in storyline, but if it legally did, then at this point, Jeff Jarrett is still just an employee, and he can be fired unless he is trying to make himself invaluable or so valuable to the company they wouldn't get rid of him. I totally see where Matt's coming from. Also, Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy have both said they didn't want to leave TNA. Had Billy Corgan gotten the company, they would have stayed there. And I think they're enjoying being in WWE, but they really, I think, had a very good thing going where they were.
I don't think they just did a recent trip out overseas. I don't think they went on all the dates. I think they went on some of the dates, just not all the dates. And that will make sense. Their big thing is the reason that they were Impact for Life or Impact Lifers is because it was a shortened schedule. He has a wife about to pop. So it's not like he can be on the road 300 days a year like they used to be.
Exactly. And at this point, I mean, if WWE is letting Brock Lesnar just come in basically whenever the hell he wants, definitely the Hardys should be allowed to work a light schedule. I mean, the Hardys are gigantic stars. So,
but even them combined aren't Brock Lesnar.
True, very true. So yeah, that was that. I do think in the long run, the Global Force World Championship and the Impact and the TNA World Championship will merge to become. I think
they all gotta merge, but you know what? It is making an interesting storyline right now. Again, I tell people when you're watching this show, think of it as this is the first time you've ever watched this show. Don't think of the years because they have gutted the roster so much. There's very little to remind you of what was there. So Jeff Jarrett right now is rebuilding a product that is damn near dead. He's rebuilding the product. So, you have to be patient with them because they have to make you hate these new stars. They got to make you love some new stars. So you're getting the groundwork building of a lot of new wrestlers. And they can be boring while what's going on.
Yep, that is, you're right. You're right. So hopefully it does well. I mean, I'm not really a fan of Impact. I don't watch it, but I want it to do well. Absolutely want it to do well. So you have anything else on the Impact before we move on?
No, we'll see what happens next week.
Yeah. So we've got, basically we've got our top 5, but we do have one other New Japan story to talk about. At the pay-per-view on Friday, New Japan and Ring of Honor made an announcement that the G1 Climax shows that will be occurring in California on July 1st and 2nd will be a tournament that will crown a new IWGP United States champion. Jay Lethal has been announced as the first person into the tournament. And it's New Japan's first new belt since they introduced the Never Openweight Championship back in 2012. Apparently, it's not their first United States-based title. They had I guess they worked with the NWF, which was an offshoot of the NWA, and there was the NWF North American Championship. There was an NWA North American Tag Team Championship, and there was a WWF North American Heavyweight Championship, which all basically called New Japan home at some point during the 70s and 80s. They showed the belt. It is kind of garish, in my humble opinion.
Now, it reminds me of the old NWA United States title.
I can totally see that, yes. But it is, it's. I think if this is really their first shot into America, I think it's it's not a bad way to go. It's kind of like what WWE is doing in the UK, and I'm really interested. I'll be interested to see who wins.
I think it'll be Cody.
It probably will be. I suspect either Cody or Jay Lethal. But the other thing, though, that I want to see is how much of this is how many people do they get that aren't just Ring of Honor wrestlers? Because it is going to be a New Japan show, so it's not a Ring of Honor / New Japan show. It is a New Japan show. I'm sure Ring of Honor is going to have a very serious presence there, but are they also going to bring in Evolve people? Are they going to bring in people from AAW or other territories, other feds from the United States? So yeah, it'll. I'm very curious, and if nothing else, it should make for a great two pay-per-views. Did you have anything on that you wanted to add?
No. Are they going to both be on pay-per-view?
I think so. If nothing else, they're going to be on New Japan World.
Well, I will be watching them. I am very interested to see what they're going to do. First of a couple shots fired back at the WWE. I love that they're coming at it because, to me, all that does to me, and everyone understands, I want a solid number 2 in the country. The reason being is every time there's a solid number 2, WWE steps up their game. And when the WWE steps up their game, it's better programming for all of us. So for my own selfish reason, I'm hoping that IWGP catches on here.
I agree wholeheartedly, because WWE is absolutely at its best when someone is seriously nipping at its heels or just straight up kicking its ass. So let's hope New Japan has a good shot at this. That's pretty much it for the stories for the week. Now, did you have a Hall of Fame for this week?
I did not. I figured we had so many stories that was going to take a lot of time, which it did. So
it did.
It did. So I just figured that the stories I was going to just let that go this week.
Good. Okay. Well, we do have a top 5 that we've been kicking around for a while, and I did get it ready. So,
all right.
So we're going to do our top 5 heel turns. This is one we've been talking about for a while, and I finished mine up this morning. So, do you have any honorable mentions?
Bully Ray. They have been building up in TNA. This was part of Dixie's TNA. They have been building it up at the moment he was dating Brooke Hogan, and when they announced that he was the main guy in the Aces and Eights, that he was the runner of the Aces and Eights, that was a pretty significant moment as far as a heel turn, and it was my favorite version of Bubba Ray. I mean, that has been Bully Ray is one of my favorite heel characters ever.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of him from that era, and I liked it. I think he's that's a great persona for him to have. It's doing something other than just being in the Dudley Boys. So good call. So I have one honorable mention. It is Randy Savage turning heel on Hulk Hogan backstage. I think it was a Saturday night main event. It was the end of the Mega Powers, and basically that was Randy Savage losing his mind and just going crazy. I loved it. All right, what do you have at number 5?
Shawn turns on Marty.
And that's also my number 5. So yes.
Yeah, the moment when Shawn Michaels throws Marty Jannetty through the mirror on the barbershop, it's the moment that changed wrestling history.
Yes, it was really, really good.
It was. I mean, nothing really changed anyone's career as much as that one did.
Agreed. And poor Marty. Poor Marty. All right, so what do you have at number 4?
Barry Windham joins the Horsemen.
Oh, I forgot about that.
When Barry Windham was tagging Lex Luger and the Horsemen, Barry Windham was telling him how you don't want to be in a Horseman. They're just using them. Luger turns on the Horsemen. Luger and Windham win the tag team titles. Basically, J.J. Dillon, they have a storyline over a few weeks, J.J. Dillon getting in Barry Windham's ear, and how Luger's not and ultimately going to be there for him in the end. And ultimately, during the match, Luger had gotten hurt. Barry Windham couldn't make the tag, and then he turns on Luger and he joins the Horsemen. My favorite version of the Horsemen: Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, Barry Windham, and J.J. Dillon. My favorite version.
And that was the version that got into the WWE Hall of Fame. Did they also include Ole in that? Because is he still alive?
Ole's still alive, and he still hates Ric Flair, and Ric Flair still hates him. So for that, Ole Anderson would never be included.
Okay.
And Ole Anderson hates Vince McMahon. And you know why Ole hates Vince McMahon? For the whole destroying the territories thing. Which, come on, dude, it's been 30 years at this point. Get over it.
Good call, man. I forgot. I loved Barry Windham. Back in that was late 80s, right? Mid to late 80s. Yeah. He and Luger and Sting, the three of them had a lot of great. They fought each other. They were friends. Barry Windham was just one of those guys who he never really, in the few times he was in WWE, it just didn't work. But he was a big time star for the NWA and early WCW, mostly for the NWA. But yeah, I like him a lot, and I completely forgot about that. My number 4 is technically a double turn. Bret Hart turning on Steve Austin at WrestleMania 13, where basically he turned heel because he snapped, and Austin turned face because he got the poo beat out of him. So I like that one. That was a good one. What's your number 3?
Number 3, Triple H turns on DX.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was when Triple H joined the corporation. It was slowly through that night that DX it was this thing him and China both went, and they just kept beating up people as he turned corporate.
Nice. All right, my number 3 is Kevin Owens turning on Sami Zayn on his first night in NXT at NXT R Evolution, because that was just so brutal. It was so wonderfully brutal.
See, it was funny because to me, Kevin Owens was never a face. That's why I don't even think of it as a heel turn. I think of it, since it was his first night, I think of it as more of establishing his character.
I can see that. But he came out, he definitely wrestled as a face in his match against CJ Parker and the now Juice Robinson. And Juice Robinson's awesome. I always thought he was a joke in NXT. Man, in New Japan, he's great. So yeah, what is your number 2?
The Rock turns corporate.
Nice.
Corporate was a big part of the WWE. They did a tournament to decide the new champion. Vince McMahon made Mick Foley think that he was going to be the face of his corporation, going up against The Rock. But in the end, The Rock had Mick Foley in a sharpshooter, and Vince McMahon called for the bell, a la Montreal Screwjob, and The Rock became the champion.
Very nice. Okay, my number 2 is Andre the Giant turning on Hulk Hogan, the dastardly deed of ripping off his shirt and his cross necklace. It was, man, I tell you what, I remember as a kid seeing that, going, oh my God, Andre, why? So it was
that was a moment. That is one of my moments from the 80s also.
Yeah. All right, what is your number 1?
I might be your number 1, but it's the biggest heel turn to me in wrestling history. Hogan joins the NWO.
Oh yeah, that's my number 1.
I mean, we didn't know who the third. They had their tag team. It was Macho, Lex, and Sting, and they were against the Outsiders, and they said their guy was going to show up later. And Hogan shows up. Is that the third man? I remember Bobby Heenan screaming, "Is he the third man? Is he the third man?"
Oh, and apparently Eric Bischoff was so pissed at him for doing that. And that was, to me, that was just Bobby Heenan, because Bobby Heenan hated Hulk Hogan. And that was par for the course for Heenan, but apparently Bischoff was like, damn it, you've ruined it. You ruined the surprise.
No, because... And then Hogan comes out, and it was like, of course he's the third man, because otherwise it would have been 4-on-2 face advantage. And, yeah. I know originally Sting was supposed to be the person turning that night, and I don't know if that would have changed the NWO or the dynamic of the NWO. Sting's always seemed to work well with people, so it might have.
Yeah, I don't think it would have worked, because you needed a faction to be a bunch of WWF guys. And no one, even though Hogan was, WCW just did everything they could to make him happy. They were on their knees, they were bent over, they were taken in the face, whatever. It didn't matter. Whatever Hogan wanted, he got. And so it made sense for it to be Hogan. Sting, it makes no sense, because Sting is the loyal guy. But that was an incredible heel turn, and the trash that ended up in the ring.
It would have been just as big a heel turn if it was Sting.
I can see, yeah.
Because he was the loyal WCW guy. And not only did he join the Outsiders. The Ultimate Insider joins the Outsider.
From that point, yeah. I don't think it would have worked as well, though.
I don't know. Hogan had this whole thing where it was kind of cool, because I even remember how the NWO would do it. Hogan was cutting these old school heel promos, and Nash and Hall was just acting like they were cooler than everything in the room, and it was just like that contrast worked so well.
Exactly.
So yeah, that was a great one.
Yep, I agree. So do you have any ideas for next week's top 5?
Let's see. Let's see. I don't know.
I've got one.
What up?
Top 5 super kicks.
Top 5 super kicks. Super kick, super kick, super kick, super kick.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Carino. So is that one okay with you?
Yeah, that works for me.
All right.
Yeah, there's a lot. I got some obscure ones for you. So
excellent. All right. Well, we will do that, and that we'll have that one back with you next week. Also, we should hopefully have our review of NXT TakeOver Chicago and talk about whatever else hits the fan between now and then. And so
we'll also have our Backlash preview.
Yes, I forgot about that Backlash preview. That will be interesting. The paper that so far has been almost completely marketed by Shinsuke Nakamura.
We get Kevin Owens versus AJ Styles. So
true. Well, I'm talking about like all the little vignette things. It's all Nakamura doing some Nakamura-y things.
And then we get my boy Jinder in the main event, hopefully.
I'd rather actually. I don't think that should be the main event, but there's a part of me that really wants him to win. I really do.
If you're gonna do it, go all the way with it, man.
Might as well. So that's gonna do it for this week. We will be next week with episode 96. And Floyd, I got a question for you.
What up?
Is life work?
Oh man, understand. You gotta know this. Life is very much a work. I need all of you out there to remember to kick out at 2. We'll see you next time around the ring.
You've been listening to Around the Ring on the Spark Radio Network.
All you have to do is change your point of view. And believe.
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. Bam! Woo!
This sucks more than anything that I've ever sucked before.
What? It's for charity.